My wife came home after 3 days of silence. No phone calls, no text messages, no explanation. Just 72 hours of nothing, and then she walked through the front door like she had just stepped out for groceries. Waverly? I stood up from the couch where I had been sitting for the past 6 hours, waiting. Where have you been? I've been going out of my mind. I need space. 3 words. That's all she gave me. Space? You disappeared for 3 days. The kids have been asking where Mommy is. I filed a missing persons report. I called every hospital in the city. I'm sorry. I needed to think. She wouldn't look at me. That was the first thing I noticed. My wife, who had always met my eyes with that fierce directness I loved, was staring at the floor like it held the answers to questions I didn't know how to ask. Think about what? Waverly, talk to me. Whatever's going on, we can work through it together. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. Not this time. She walked past me, up the stairs, into our bedroom. The door closed. The lock clicked. I stood there in the living room of the house we had built together over 14 years, listening to the silence, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. 1 week later, I was served divorce papers. The process server came to my office, a young guy in a cheap suit who handed me the envelope with a practiced neutrality that suggested he had done this 1,000 times before. Callahan Trask. That's me. You've been served. I opened the envelope in my car, sitting in the parking lot, reading the words that would end my marriage. Irreconcilable differences. Petitioner seeks dissolution of marriage, division of assets, custody arrangement. Custody, Clover and Beckett. Our children, 12 and 9 years old. The lights of my life. The reason I got up every morning, the people I would die to protect. Waverly wanted to take them from me. I drove home in a fog, found Waverly in the kitchen, making dinner like nothing was happening, like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the center of our lives. You're divorcing me? She didn't turn around, just kept stirring whatever was in the pot, her back rigid, her shoulders tense. Yes. Why? I told you, I need space. Space is a vacation, Waverly. Space is sleeping in separate rooms for a few weeks. This is divorce. This is ending our family. I deserve to know why. Silence. Is there someone else? More silence. Then quietly, no. Then what? What happened? What changed? We were happy. I thought we were happy. She finally turned to face me. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying, but her expression was closed, guarded, a wall I couldn't see past. Please, Callahan, just sign the papers. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Don't make this harder. You're taking everything from me. My wife, my home, my children, and you won't even tell me why? I can't explain. I need this to be over. I stared at her. At this woman I had loved for 14 years, shared a bed with, raised children with, built a life with. She looked like a stranger. Fine. I walked to the dining room table, pulled out the divorce papers and signed every page. Waverly's face flickered. Surprise, maybe, or relief, or something else I couldn't identify. You're not going to fight? Would it matter if I did? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. I set the pen down. I'll have my lawyer look these over and send them back. If this is really what you want, I won't stand in your way. I walked out of the kitchen, out of the house, into the cool evening air, but something felt wrong. Not just the divorce, not just the sudden end of my marriage, something deeper, something I couldn't put my finger on. My wife had been distant before, stressed, preoccupied, struggling with work or family issues, but she had never been like this, never cold, never closed off, never looking at me with that strange mix of fear and resignation in her eyes. Fear. That's what I had seen, not anger, not resentment, not the face of a woman who had fallen out of love. Fear. My wife was afraid of something, and I was going to find out what. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in the guest bedroom. Waverly had made it clear she wanted me out of our room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction from the past week. Her disappearance, her return, her refusal to explain, the divorce papers, the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. Something was wrong. Something beyond a failing marriage, beyond irreconcilable differences, beyond the normal dissolution of a relationship. I am an IT security expert. It's what I do for a living. Find the things people try to hide. Expose the secrets buried in code and data and digital footprints. I've spent 20 years learning to see patterns that others miss, to trust my instincts when they tell me something doesn't add up. My instincts were screaming. At 2 a.m., I got out of bed and went to my home office. 3 years ago, I had installed a comprehensive security system throughout the house. Cameras at every entrance, motion sensors in the hallways, a control panel that could monitor everything from my phone or computer. But there was one camera I had almost forgotten about, the home office camera. I had installed it as part of the system, then disabled it because Waverly said it made her uncomfortable. She sometimes used the office for video calls, and she didn't like the idea of being recorded, but I hadn't uninstalled it. I had just turned off the live feed and let it run in passive mode, recording to a backup drive that I checked maybe once a year. I pulled up the footage from the past 2 weeks, fast-forwarded through hours of empty room, occasional glimpses of myself working at the desk, nothing unusual, and then I saw it. March 15th, 2:47 p.m. The day before, Waverly disappeared. A man walked into my home office. I didn't recognize him. Tall, well-dressed, silver hair, the kind of confident bearing that suggested money and power. He moved through my house like he owned it, like he had every right to be there. Waverly followed him into the room. She looked terrified. I turned up the audio. "Sit down, Waverly." His voice was smooth, controlled, the voice of a man who was used to being obeyed. "Dorian, please, we can talk about this. Sit down." She sat. He pulled out his phone, held it up so she could see the screen. I couldn't make out what was on it from the camera angle, but Waverly's reaction told me everything I needed to know. Her face went white. Her hands flew to her mouth. She made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob, that I had never heard from her before. "No," she whispered. "No, you can't. I can do whatever I want, Waverly. I've had these for 15 years. I've been waiting for the right moment to use them. Please, please, Dorian, I'll do anything. Yes, you will." He smiled. It was the coldest smile I had ever seen. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear for a few days. When you come back, you're going to tell your husband you need space. Then you're going to file for divorce." "I can't. Callahan will never—" "Callahan will do exactly what you tell him to do, if you play your part correctly. And you will play your part, Waverly, because if you don't—" He held up the phone again. "Your husband sees everything. Your children see everything. Your employer sees everything. Everyone you've ever known will watch you." "Stop!" She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "Please stop. I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. Just please, don't show him. Don't let him see." "That's a good girl." Dorian pocketed his phone. "I'll be in touch with the details, and Waverly, don't even think about telling anyone. If I find out you've spoken to your husband, to a lawyer, to anyone, I release everything. Immediately. Do you understand?" She nodded, unable to speak. I said, "Do you understand?" "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I understand." He left. Waverly sat there for a long time, alone in my office, crying silently into her hands. I watched the footage 3 times. Then I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. "Marlowe, it's Callahan Trask. We need to talk." "Callahan, it's 3 in the morning. I know, and I'm sorry, but this can't wait." "What's going on?" I took a breath. "We're not getting divorced, not yet. I just saw something that changes everything." Marlowe Vickers was at my house by 5 a.m. She was a sharp woman in her mid-40s, the kind of lawyer who had seen everything and was surprised by nothing. We had worked together on several corporate security cases, and I trusted her completely. "Show me," she said. I played the footage. She watched in silence, her face growing more grim with each passing minute. When it was over, she sat back and let out a long breath. Your wife isn't leaving you because she wants to. No, she's being blackmailed. Yes. By this man, Dorian. Do you know who he is? Not yet, but I'm going to find out. Marlowe nodded slowly. This changes everything, Callahan. If she signed those divorce papers under duress, if she's being coerced, then the entire proceeding is fraudulent. We can have it thrown out. That's not what I'm worried about right now. Then what? My wife has been carrying this for a week, maybe longer. She's been living in terror, trying to protect me and our children from something she's ashamed of, and she's been doing it alone. I stood up, walked to the window. I need to know what he has on her. I need to understand what happened 15 years ago, and I need to stop him. Have you talked to Waverly? Not yet. I wanted to understand the situation first. I wanted to have a plan. Good. Marlowe pulled out her laptop. Let's start with what we know. The man's name is Dorian. He mentioned having these for 15 years, which suggests some kind of recordings or photographs. He's using them to force Waverly into a divorce. Which means he wants something from her. Money, probably. She files for divorce, takes half of everything in the settlement, and then he takes it from her. Marlowe's eyes were cold. This isn't just blackmail, Callahan. This is a long-term predator, someone who's been waiting, planning, preparing for the moment when he could use his leverage. Can we find him, track him down? With the security footage, we have his face. I can run it through some databases, see if we get a hit. But Callahan, she looked at me. You need to tell your wife. She needs to know you're on her side. I know, but not yet. Not until I have enough to protect her. Right now, she's terrified that I'll see whatever he's holding over her. If I confront her before I have a plan, she might panic. She might run. She might do something desperate. So, what's your move? I sat back down, looked at the frozen image on my screen, Dorian's face, that cold smile. First, I find out who he is, then I find out what he has, then I find out if there are others. Others? Men like this don't stop at one victim. If he's been doing this for 15 years, there are other women, other lives he's destroyed. Marlowe nodded. And if you find them, then we build a case, not just for Waverly, for everyone he's hurt. I looked at my lawyer. This man thought he could destroy my family. He thought he could use my wife's past to tear apart everything we've built. He was wrong. What do you need from me? Everything you can find on the legal side. Blackmail statutes, extortion laws, revenge porn legislation. Whatever he's done, there has to be a way to put him in prison for it. Consider it done. She closed her laptop. And Callahan, be careful. Men like this, they don't give up easily. If he finds out you know, things could get dangerous. Let him come. I looked back at the screen. I've been waiting my whole career for someone like him. Let me tell you about my wife. I met Waverly in the summer of 2009. I was 30 years old, recently promoted at my company, finally feeling like I had my life together. She was 25, working at a marketing firm, rebuilding herself after what she vaguely described as a difficult few years. We met at a wedding. Mutual friends, open bar, one of those perfect summer evenings where the air smells like flowers and possibility. She was standing by the dessert table, looking slightly lost, and I walked over to introduce myself. The cake is better than it looks, I said. She smiled. Is that your professional opinion? Absolutely. I have a PhD in wedding pastries. She laughed, and I was done for. We talked for 3 hours that night. Missed the bouquet toss, the garter throw, most of the dancing. Just stood in a corner of the reception hall, learning each other, building the foundation of something neither of us expected. 6 months later, we were engaged. A year after that, we were married. Waverly told me early on that she had a past she wasn't proud of. Bad relationships, poor decisions, a period in her mid-20s when she had lost her way. She didn't give me details and I didn't push. We all have chapters we'd rather not read aloud. What mattered to me was who she was now. Kind, strong, fiercely protective of the people she loved. A devoted mother who would do anything for Clover and Beckett. A partner who stood beside me through every challenge, every setback, every triumph. 14 years, 2 children. A life built on trust and respect, and the simple, profound belief that we were better together than apart. And now I understood she hadn't been leaving me because she stopped loving me. She had been leaving me to protect me, to protect our children, to keep us from seeing whatever Dorian held over her. She had been willing to lose everything, her marriage, her home, her family, just to spare us the pain of knowing her secrets. That wasn't betrayal, that was love. Misguided, desperate, heartbreaking love. And I was going to save her from it. It took me 3 days to identify Dorian Slade. The security footage gave me his face. A reverse image search gave me his name. A deep dive into public records gave me his history. Dorian Slade, 48 years old. Former investment banker, now running a consulting firm that seemed to have no clients and no revenue. Married to a woman named Annalisa for 22 years. 2 homes, one in the city, one in the Hamptons. Country club membership, luxury cars, all the trappings of wealth. But the money didn't add up. His banking career had ended in 2015 amid whispers of impropriety that never quite became scandals. Since then, his income had been sporadic at best, yet his lifestyle hadn't changed. Someone was funding him. Or he was funding himself through other means. I dug deeper: court records, civil suits, restraining orders. And there it was. In 2018, a woman named Teresa Colvin had filed a complaint against Dorian Slade, alleging harassment and extortion. The case had been dropped before it went to trial. No explanation given. In 2020, another woman, Catherine Marsh, had obtained a temporary restraining order against him. It expired after 6 months and was never renewed. In 2022, a third woman, Simone Hartley, had filed for divorce from her husband just weeks after meeting with Dorian at a charity event. The divorce was finalized in record time, and Simone had reportedly given large sums of money to an unnamed consultant as part of the settlement. A pattern. Dorian Slade had been doing this for years, finding women with secrets, waiting until they had something to lose, then using his leverage to extort money through manufactured divorces. Waverly wasn't his first victim. She might not even be his last. I made contact with Teresa Colvin first. She was hesitant at first, understandably so. A stranger calling out of the blue, asking about the worst experience of her life. But when I explained my situation, when I told her about Waverly and what I had seen on the security footage, she agreed to meet. We sat in a coffee shop in Brooklyn, 2 strangers bound by a common enemy. He recorded me, Teresa said quietly, when I was 23. We had a brief relationship. I didn't know he was married at the time. He told me it was casual, no strings attached. I didn't know he was filming. And he used the recordings to blackmail you? Years later, after I was married, after I had kids, he showed up at my door and said he would send the videos to my husband if I didn't pay him. How much? $50,000, the first time. She looked down at her coffee. Then another 50, then another. By the time I realized it would never stop, I had given him almost $200,000. Why did you drop the complaint? Because he threatened to release the videos anyway. Said if I went to court, he would make sure everyone saw them. My husband, my children, my employer. I couldn't. Her voice broke. I couldn't let my kids see that. I'm sorry. It destroyed my marriage anyway. My husband found out about the payments, thought I was hiding something worse. We divorced 2 years later. She met my eyes. Dorian Slade took everything from me. My money, my marriage, my peace of mind. And there was nothing I could do to stop him. There is now. I told her about the security footage, about the other victims I had found, about my plan to build a case that would put Dorian away forever. Would you testify? If we can get this to trial, would you be willing to tell your story? Teresa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Yes, for all the women he's hurt, for your wife. She took a breath. Yes, I'll testify. Over the following 2 weeks, I found 4 more victims. Catherine Marsh, Simone Hartley, Jennifer Oakes, Patricia Dunn. All of them had the same story. A relationship with Dorian in their past, sometimes brief, sometimes more serious, that he had secretly recorded. Years of silence, then sudden contact, threats, demands, lives destroyed. Some had paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Others had lost their marriages, their careers, their reputations. One woman, Patricia, had attempted suicide after the blackmail became too much to bear. She survived, barely, and she was willing to testify too. I compiled everything: the security footage, the victim statements, the financial records showing payments to Dorian's consulting firm, the pattern of behavior spanning over a decade. Then I took it to the police. Detective Finnegan Holt was a veteran of the Major Crimes Unit, a tired-looking man with sharp eyes and a reputation for taking down predators. He listened to my presentation in silence, flipping through the evidence, his expression growing darker with each page. "This is extensive," he said finally. "It's been going on for years. He's hurt a lot of people." "And your wife? She's one of the victims?" "She is, but she doesn't know I know. I wanted to build the case first. I wanted to make sure there was no way he could wriggle out of this." Holt nodded slowly. "We'll need to interview all the women. Get official statements, but based on what I'm seeing here..." He closed the folder. "We have enough to arrest him." "When?" "Soon. A few days, maybe a week. We need to coordinate with the DA, make sure the charges are solid." He looked at me. "You should talk to your wife, Mr. Trask. She needs to know what's happening. She needs to know she's not alone." "I will, tonight." "Good." He stood, extended his hand. "You did good work here. A lot of people are going to get justice because of what you found. There's only one person I care about." "I know." His grip was firm. "Go take care of her." I found Waverly in the backyard. The kids were at my mother's house. I had asked Cordelia to take them for the night, told her I needed time alone with my wife. She didn't ask questions, just hugged me and said she would pray for us. Waverly was sitting on the bench by the garden, the one we had built together the summer after Clover was born. She looked small in the fading light, her shoulders hunched, her face turned away from the house. I walked over and sat beside her. She tensed, but didn't move. "Callahan, I thought you were staying at your brother's tonight." I changed my mind. "We shouldn't, the divorce. There isn't going to be a divorce." She turned to look at me. Her eyes were red, swollen. She had been crying again. She had probably been crying every night, since this began. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, pulled up the security footage, pressed play. Her face went white. "How did you—" "The office camera. I forgot it was there. So did you." I paused the video. "I know everything, Waverly. I know about Dorian. I know what he's been doing to you. I know about the recordings, the threats, all of it." She was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. "Callahan, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to see. I was trying to protect you." "I know. It was 15 years ago, before I met you. I was young and stupid, and I didn't know he was married, and I certainly didn't know he was recording." "I know. I should have told you. When we first met, when things got serious, I should have told you everything. But I was so ashamed, and I thought it was over, and I never imagined he would—" "Waverly." I took her hands in mine. "Stop." She stopped. "I don't care about the recordings. I don't care about what you did 15 years ago. I care about you. I care about our family, and I am not going to let this man destroy what we've built. But if he releases them, he won't. Not anymore." I turned her to face me fully. "I found the other victims, Waverly, 5 other women he's done this to. We've built a case, evidence, testimony, everything. The police are going to arrest him. He's going to prison." She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "What?" "It's over. He can't hurt you anymore. He can't hurt anyone. But the recordings are evidence of a crime. He made them without your consent. That's illegal in this state. They won't be released. They'll be sealed as a part of the criminal case." Waverly was crying harder now, but something had changed in her face. The fear was still there, but beneath it, hope. Fragile, uncertain hope. You did all of this? For me? Of course I did. You're my wife. You're the mother of my children. Did you really think I would let some predator destroy our family without a fight? I thought, when you saw the footage, I thought you would hate me. Hate you? I pulled her close, held her the way I should have held her weeks ago. Waverly, what I saw on that footage was my wife being terrorized by a monster. What I saw was a woman so desperate to protect her family that she was willing to lose everything, including me, just to keep us safe. I was trying to protect you from the truth. I don't need to be protected from the truth. I need you, the real you, the one with scars and secrets and a past she's ashamed of. I tilted her face up to meet my eyes. I married you, Waverly. Not some perfect version of you, the real you, and I love her. I love you. Nothing is going to change that. She collapsed against my chest, sobbing. And for the first time in weeks, they weren't tears of fear. They were tears of relief. Dorian Slade was arrested 3 days later. They picked him up at his country club. Maximum embarrassment, Detective Holt told me later, exactly what he deserved. He was charged with extortion, blackmail, and 6 counts of creating non-consensual intimate recordings. The case was airtight. The victims testified, one after another, telling their stories in open court. Teresa Colvin, Catherine Marsh, Simone Hartley, Jennifer Oakes, Patricia Dunn, and finally, Waverly. My wife walked into that courtroom with her head held high. She told the jury everything. The brief relationship, the recordings she didn't know existed, the years of shame, the terror of his return, the impossible choice he had forced her to make. She was magnificent. Dorian's defense tried to paint the women as willing participants, as scorned lovers seeking revenge. The jury didn't buy it. How could they, with 5 different women telling the same story, with security footage showing Dorian threatening Waverly in her own home, with financial records proving decades of extortion payments? Guilty on all counts. 18 years in federal prison. When the verdict was read, Dorian turned to look at me. His face was twisted with rage, the composed mask finally cracking. "This isn't over," he mouthed. I held his gaze, didn't flinch. "Yes," I mouthed back, "it is." There was one more twist. During the investigation, Detective Holt had interviewed Dorian's wife, Annalisa. She had been married to him for 22 years. Surely she knew something about his activities. She knew everything. Not because she was complicit, she wasn't, but because she was a victim too. Dorian had done the same thing to her years ago when they were first dating. Had used the recordings to trap her into marriage, then used them again whenever she tried to leave. She had been his prisoner for over 2 decades, too afraid and too ashamed to ask for help. When the police came to arrest him, she broke down and told them everything, every woman she had watched him target, every payment she had seen him collect, every life she had watched him destroy. Her testimony sealed his fate, and when it was over, when Dorian was finally behind bars, Annalisa filed for divorce. A real divorce this time, one that would set her free. Waverly met with her after the trial. I don't know what they talked about. Waverly never told me the details, but when she came home, her eyes were red from crying. "She saved herself," Waverly said. "After all those years, she finally saved herself." "You both did." "No." She looked at me. "You saved me, Callahan. I was ready to lose everything. I was ready to walk away from you, from the kids, from our entire life. And you didn't let me. I couldn't let you. I love you too much." She kissed me then. The first real kiss since before her disappearance. It tasted like tears and relief and the beginning of something new. "I love you too," she whispered. "I always have. Even when I was trying to leave. Especially then." 2 years have passed since that night in the backyard. I'm 47 now, still living in the same house, but it feels different now. Lighter, like a weight has been lifted that I didn't even know we were carrying. Waverly is 42. She started therapy after the trial, processing not just the blackmail, but the shame she had carried for 15 years. It's been hard work, she says, but worth it. She's learning to forgive herself for choices she made as a young woman, learning to believe that her past doesn't define her future. Clover is 14 now, navigating the treacherous waters of high school with the same fierce determination her mother has. Beckett is 11, obsessed with video games and basketball and the dog we finally got him last Christmas. We told the children an age-appropriate version of the truth. Not everything. They don't need to know everything, but enough to understand why Mommy was sad for a while, why Daddy stayed up late working on something important, why things are better now than they were before. "So, you saved Mom?" Clover asked after we explained. "We saved each other," I said. She seemed satisfied with that answer. Sometimes, late at night, I think about what would have happened if I hadn't checked that camera. If I had accepted the divorce at face value. If I had signed the papers and walked away, believing that my wife had simply stopped loving me. Waverly would have lost everything. The house, the money, half of her time with the children. And Dorian would have taken whatever he demanded from her share, leaving her with nothing. She would have been alone, broken, carrying a secret shame that would have poisoned the rest of her life. And I would have spent years wondering what went wrong, what I did to drive her away, why the woman I loved had suddenly become a stranger. But I did check the camera, because something felt wrong, because 14 years of marriage had taught me to trust my instincts, to look deeper when the surface didn't make sense, because I loved her too much to accept easy answers. That's the lesson, I think. The thing I want people to take from this story. When someone you love starts acting strangely, don't assume the worst. Don't accept the easy explanation. Look deeper, ask questions, fight for the truth. Because sometimes the people who seem to be pushing us away are actually trying to protect us, and sometimes the only way to save them is to refuse to let go. Waverly and I renewed our vows last summer. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. In the backyard, by the bench where I had told her the truth, where she had finally let herself believe she was safe. Clover was the flower girl. Too old for it, really, but she insisted. Beckett was the ring bearer. My brother Sutton was my best man, again, just like he had been 14 years before. I, Callahan, take you, Waverly, to be my wife, again. She laughed through her tears. Is that in the official vows? It is now. I slid the ring onto her finger, a new one, chosen together, a symbol of the marriage we were building now, not the one we had almost lost. I knew who you were when I married you, I said, departing from the script we had prepared. I knew you had a past you weren't proud of. I didn't need to know the details, I just needed to know you. Waverly squeezed my hands. But now I know everything. Every secret, every scar, and I love you more than I did on our first wedding day. Because I've seen what you're willing to sacrifice for the people you love. I've seen your strength, your courage, your fierce determination to protect this family. I reached up and wiped a tear from her cheek. So I take you, Waverly, all of you, the past and the present and whatever future we build together. No more secrets, no more shame, just us. Forever. She kissed me before I finished speaking. The guests applauded, the children cheered, my mother was crying. My brother was grinning, and I was home. Finally, truly home. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it's not the story you expected. When a wife disappears for 3 days, demands space, and files for divorce, the obvious assumption is betrayal. The obvious emotion is anger. But the obvious assumption isn't always right. My wife wasn't leaving me because she didn't love me. She was leaving because she loved me too much. Too much to let me see the shame she had carried for 15 years. Too much to watch my face when I learned the truth about her past. She was trying to protect me by pushing me away. And I almost let her. But something felt wrong. And I trusted that feeling. I checked a camera I had forgotten about and I saw the truth. My wife wasn't a villain. She was a victim. Trapped by a predator who had waited 15 years to spring his trap. We're not getting divorced. Not yet. That's what I told my lawyer when I saw the footage, not because I was giving up. Not because I was surrendering. because I finally understood what was really happening, and I wasn't going to let it destroy us. Now, I want to ask you something. What would you do if you discovered your spouse wasn't betraying you, but being blackmailed? Would you fight for them, even if it meant learning secrets they were ashamed of? Would you risk everything to save a marriage that seemed to be ending? Have you ever judged someone before knowing the full story? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, especially anyone who has ever felt like they had to face their problems alone. Comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story. I'll see you in the next one. It's a Sunday morning now. Waverly is still asleep. The house is quiet. Beckett is at a sleepover, and Clover is probably texting her friends from her room. I'm sitting in the kitchen with my coffee, watching the sunrise through the window, thinking about everything we've been through. My wife disappeared for 3 days. She came back and asked for a divorce. I signed the papers without a fight, but something felt wrong. So I checked a camera I had forgotten about, and what I saw changed everything. Not because it showed me my wife's secrets, but because it showed me her fear, and I realized that the woman I loved wasn't running from me. She was trying to save me, so I saved her instead. That's what marriage is, I think. Not the good times, not the easy days, not the moments when everything is perfect. Marriage is the choice you make when everything is falling apart, the choice to fight instead of surrender, the choice to look deeper instead of accepting easy answers, the choice to love someone completely. Secrets and scars and all. I made that choice 2 years ago. I'll make it again tomorrow. And every day after that, forever.
Floor to the top floor, and that is my exercise, and then I get the sunlight on the rooftop. So after I walk from my floor to the rooftop, I'm usually feeling pretty hot from the exercise. And then I stand on the rooftop for about 5 or 10 minutes, get the sunlight. Then I go back down. I brew a coffee with the Vietnamese phin. In English, maybe it's just called the Vietnamese coffee filter, or we call it a Vietnamese drip coffee. So I brew one of those with a little bit of condensed milk and a pinch of salt. And then while that's brewing, I will maybe go on my computer, plan my day, check the tasks that I have to do, usually some form of work. Because early in the morning, I'm still in a relaxed mood, and in the morning, I feel like it's easier to focus. So when my coffee's ready, I drink my coffee, and then sometimes I will do a quick workout. Like before, it was only a short, small workout. And then after I drink the coffee, I'm like, ooh, I'm pumped up. So then maybe I'll do a workout. And then after that, often I will eat and then go to work. So what I eat in the morning is pretty much only 2 things. It is either pho or